Welcome to the LawyerFair.co.uk daily podcast. LawyerFair helps businesses find the right lawyer at the fairest price. But on this podcast, we just chew the fat with some great guests.
So welcome to the LawyerFair Daily Podcast, and welcome indeed to Paul Grant from The Funding Game. Welcome, Paul.
Hi, Andrew. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Well, thank you very much for joining. I mean, Paul and I were actually chatting before we were recording. I can't. It's one of those relationships where I stumbled across a presentation from Paul, and he does many workshops and seminars, which we'll go into in a moment. And I can't actually remember when it was, but it obviously resonated with me because it was in the early stages of my own startup journey, and we've since raised some funds. And I've always wanted to get Paul back on since we were doing the podcast to just go into the funding and finance game a little bit more. And I was very pleased to see, Paul, on your LinkedIn profile. You've certainly generated a good number of endorsements, which I think is very impressive. I should be a bit more disciplined, but one of them was from a chap that said, and I think a lot of people will appreciate this comment, the funding landscape is vast, varied, and a minefield. Paul, discuss from there.
Yeah, it is, because a lot of people do not know how to play what I call the funding game. And I learned this when actually I was running an angel network for a while, for about 3 years. And in that time, I saw literally thousands of business plans, and I realized that I went through the whole experience myself, by the way, and I was probably fairly clueless, but I only realized until I started looking at other people's deals, and I was on the other side of the fence, and I realized that a lot of people are wasting vast amount of time looking at funding when they perhaps shouldn't be looking at funding, or just didn't know how to go about it. They had maybe the wrong valuation of the wrong deal, wrong presentation, or even talking to the wrong people, worse than that. And not only that, but if they got people interested, then they could be completely done over on the deal itself, and because they didn't know how the whole game worked. So it doesn't have to be scary. If you break it down, it is totally doable. And the problem is that there's not much clarity on this particular topic. It's almost too much noise. If they go online, for example, they'll just be completely confused. So that's kind of what I try and do. I try and clarify the whole process and make it much more approachable.
Well, I think minefield is a great word, actually, that was used there, because I was at an awards ceremony last night with Tech City and some really fast growth companies there, and there was a very consistent theme when asked, what's the greatest challenge, alongside recruiting people, which was pretty much the number one challenge. The second was, don't underestimate the time and the distraction that raising funds takes, and it's almost an ongoing feast. If you're a startup and generating some growth, you're almost always in contact with funders, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Just to give you a case in point, I did a workshop actually yesterday at the British Library, and I had this lady that was very close to finishing her round, and she was raising something like about £600,000. So it's quite a significant amount of money, but even still, she'd done quite well. She's had an established business, is doing quite well in quite a hot market. She was quite an experienced entrepreneur. She already knew a set of people. But when I asked her I said, okay, so how long did it take you to get to this point where you're just about to close the round? And she said, oh my God, it was an absolute, took me like forever. I said, okay, how long? She's about basically 7 months and it's still going on.
Yeah.
So, and she said, it's not a full-time job for me. And she said, I never want to have to go through experience again because of the way that she did it. And not only that, but it's a complete distraction for our main business, which means that the worst scenario is that her sales then start slowing down because she's so distracted from talking to investors. And then investors, in some cases, use that against her, saying, but your sales are slowing down. How do you justify that valuation? Well, it's because I'm talking to you, that's why.
No, those friendly venture capitalists, they'd be doing something like that. Paul, I want to take you back, actually, to a blog you did, because I think this is a really important point to start off with. There's a blog you did a few months ago that was relating to the business plans, the importance or otherwise of them. And I think a lot of people sweat the small stuff on the business plans. But what's your view on its importance and what should be included in it?
Okay, so I'm not a big fan of business plans. I think a lot of people out there would be probably quite glad to hear that, because no one really enjoys writing them, that's for sure. Very few people, in fact, and even less people enjoy reading them. So, what is the point? And some people might argue, well, the point surely is to think through the process. But does it take like 9 months and 100 pages in long form to think through the process? Where I'm a big fan of actually giving people just enough information and just thinking more with clarity rather than actual just volume. So I have a process where I take people through, for example, the first thing I get them to do is like a one-page exec summary. So you do your business plan on one page, and that makes that really is quite a challenge. Actually, it's much more challenging writing 100 pages in some ways, because you really have to have clarity of thought to be able to get down your proposition on one page, and then you have a pitch deck, which is a visual representation of the business plan, and then at the most probably a longer kind of pitch deck, which is more words, more stats, maybe infographics, and maybe say 20 slides. That effectively is your business plan. And then around also you have to do the financials. I'm not saying don't do a business plan or don't do financials. You need to still do the cash flow forecast, which is really key, and profit and loss, but it really shouldn't take forever to do. It shouldn't take 6, 7, 8, 9 months. It could be done in perhaps a month, in your spare time. So you just break it down, make it really manageable. Don't, and also, like I said, hardly any people actually read these plans, so it's largely a kind of waste of time, kind of just continually polishing them all the time.
Well, all of us are where we are based on experience, Paul. And I can tell you now that I had a business proposition before I launched LawyerFair, over which I spent many sorry hours crafting this business plan, and it just took me nowhere. And I would often go into meetings and the investors are seriously experienced. They know what they're looking for. And again, this goes to the next question I'm going to ask you. Actually, is about getting into bed with the right investors, and investors who know your market. Because if they do know your market, they're going to know what the key triggers are for why they will invest in you, and that doesn't require 100 pages.
No, exactly, because they know the market.
Yeah. So just moving on to, in terms of not burning your time with the wrong kind of investors, is that a skill you just have to learn through experience? I mean, is there a way of nailing the right type of people to be in front of?
Yeah, there is actually. You control the contact point. You control the whole process by targeting the investors that actually you want to talk to, rather than just sit back and waiting. Because some entrepreneurs will just maybe sign up to a few angel networks, and then it's like basically placing a classified ad and then just receiving whatever comes through. Then the quality is not going to be particularly fantastic, and you end up wasting your time with a lot of people that so-called are angel investors end up not being angel investors. Whereas if you have a targeted approach, and for example you targeted maybe 20 or even ideally 50 of your ideal investors, which you can research on LinkedIn or loads of different places, and then just make an approach to them. I mean, around about ways you'll probably end up with another set of investors that are going to be friends of theirs and so on, but you are driving the whole process rather than just randomly kind of taking inquiries.
And are there any classic mistakes, Paul, that you see almost every workshop you do that people make in terms of fundraising?
Yeah, the real one of the main classics is doing the business plan thing. So you write a whole business plan, and it could be like many pages long, and then if they get any investor interest whatsoever, say even off LinkedIn or got an email from someone, then they immediately, the first thing they do is send the plan, because they're so proud of it because they spent so long over it as well. So they send the plan thinking that's the magic bullet, that'll get them interested. Where in fact, what's happened there is you just give them a whole pile of ammunition to shoot you down with, and a whole pile of reasons not to meet you in the first place. And why should they meet you anyway? They've got all the information they need. So that's a nutty thing for a lot of but usually kind of greenhorn kind of entrepreneurs to do. So instead, just send them at best a one-page exec summary, and give them just enough information to meet you.
Yeah. I mean, those business plans feel like the novels that people always wanted to write, don't they?
Yeah, that's right. Except not as fascinating.
Absolutely. And just, I mean, clearly, you're dealing with different types of fundraise. I mean, what's the kind of range of the people coming on your workshops?
Yeah, all different types. So the workshop I do at the moment, I do on 3 different ways to raise capital, and that is angel money or angel investors, high net worth individuals. That's just one route, and then there's also venture capital firms, and I'm not just talking the big guys who've got £1 billion funds. I'm talking about the smaller funds that have got, say, a £5 million fund or a £10 million fund. They're looking to invest a couple £100,000. And that is a bit more doable than the bigger VCs. And then thirdly, I've got the crowdfunding, which is a huge area now. And I run a lot of, I've been involved in a lot of crowdfunding campaigns, and I find that really exciting. And it's really, it's a fantastic area for entrepreneurs to raise money, and not just as a reward site, as in just pre-selling product, but also as to share, actually selling equity shares on platforms such as Crowdcube and Seeders.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a phenomenal growth, hasn't it? We had Julia Groves on, who's the chair of the UK Crowdfunding Association, on a previous podcast, and it's had one of the biggest hits of all our podcasts. So it's a fascinating area, and clearly it's going gangbusters as it is, but who knows where it's going to lead. So Paul, just give us an outline of what you do, what the funding game actually provides. I know you do a fairly regular workshop at the British Library.
Yeah, I do one literally every month. I do one every month, and I've even just recently just put some dates in now for the whole of next year, and that will play out. So the next one though I've got going on is about 2 weeks from today. If anyone is around, let me just get the date there.
You are a brave man, Paul. I knew this. You're going to actually have one in the week before Christmas, are you? Is that?
No, not quite that brave. No, it's going to be. Well, actually, it's on the 17th of December. So there you go. So
it's still pretty brave.
Still got time to buy your presents after that. Yeah, I know it's going to be a crazy one, but I know I just done one literally yesterday, so I've got one that's literally not usually that short apart. But after that, I've got in January and then February and so on. So it doesn't. If you're not around, busy buying, doing the smart thing of buying presents, then fair enough. But just go onto the British Library website and you'll see all the dates on there, or go on to the Funding Game, my website, fundinggame.com. Or .co.uk, and then you will find all my dates on there as well. So yeah, I do these workshops every month, and I do other workshops and other events, but that's my main one.
Well, Paul, I can only endorse you in the sense that anybody who's on a startup journey meets hundreds of people a year, and you get told advice by double that amount of people, frankly. And I met you, and I really remember very much the presentation you did. So anybody who's interested in finding out more about funding from a genuine expert and a reliable source of information, then do get hold of Paul via the fundinggame.co.uk, and as he said, the workshop is at the British Library. Paul, good luck with that pre-Christmas event. I hope it's well. I hope that people don't arrive there pre-sozzled, or perhaps is there a sozzling session after that particular event?
No, that might be a good idea actually.
Well, good luck with that. Happy Christmas, and thank you very much for joining us.
Great, thanks very much, Andrew.
Thanks, Paul. That was the LawyerFair Daily Podcast. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the LawyerFair.co.uk Daily Podcast. If you'd like to listen to more, why not subscribe and download each episode via iTunes, or visit us on the LawyerFair.co.uk website.